they don't fall under certain criteria that the sheriff has outlined. I believe that's very important because I think he has achieved that balance between what we have to do here. It's a very complex issue. We have mandated participation now in secured communities, so we cannot opt out. And I believe the collaboration between ourselves and the state and federal agencies is something that we should continue to pursue because, as John Morton from ICE mentioned, the director, he believes very strongly that we shouldn't be focused on the lower level, no criminal history people.
All right, we turn to a new topic at this point, and we're getting short on time. So we want to go back to the realignment because the city now says it's $1 million short of the money that it will need to implement this new bill. The numbers that I was given here is that the city's going to receive $5.7 million in state funding, 4.7 million of that, including 700,000 to pay for an increase in electronic monitoring of inmates. Now, the city's supposed to receive some 225 people who will actually end up in county jail. 421 will be in the community needing some sort of supervision. So how will you manage the budget for that if we end up with that shortfall? We start with you, Mr. Miraccarini.
Thank you. As Chair of Public Safety and a member in the Budget Committee, I actually don't think it's a $1 million shortfall. It's $3,445,000 is a shortfall. If in fact all 645 prisoners are delivered for this coming year, that's exactly what the shortfall will be. I was the one who authored the supplemental to the Sheriff's Department of $5.1 million so that we would be prepared, and I just authored another piece of legislation giving adult probation the largest increase in staff since the history of the department. That's 26 new positions. And I believe that we need a very forceful, vigorous advocate, and I've already tested that. 4 years ago, I went to Governor Schwarzenegger's head of CDCR, and we begged, and we cajoled, and we lobbied hard for a $1 million grant to start the first program of its kind in the state of California, not dealing with a safe population, but a high-risk population of violent felons known as NOVA. That's by me going to Sacramento twice, brought Jeff Adachi and other people, and we secured that to put the Sheriff's Department on the map. That's how NOVA got started, and this is the same level of advocacy that I'll do on behalf of making sure we have adequate funds.
To focus on the question regarding how are we going to deal with this budget shortfall, I believe that what's very important here is the knowledge that we have alternatives to incarceration. It's not just about having people come into our system, it's about having alternatives to that system. We have an electronic monitoring program right now that we are going to be able to utilize for not just pretrial people after 60 days after arraignment, but also for people that are sentenced as part of our transitional process in getting people back out into the community. We also have a home detention program, which we are going to utilize and expand on as a department. And these are areas in which the Sheriff's Department can focus on helping the adult probation department in their task. And their task is very daunting. As Supervisor Miraccarini pointed out, there is additional funding, but it's not enough. And that's something obviously all three of us will advocate for as the sheriff, is making sure that there is enough money. But we do have to work with what resources we have and what funding we currently have. And that's something I think that our department is adequately prepared for right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a budget issue, and it's a serious issue, as realignment is a serious issue. And I think leadership on this issue takes a person that's been under fire, has been tested under fire, and knows how to fight for what's right, and same time staying calm. And I've been there and done that. I was brought into the Walden House in 2004, $60 million substance abuse treatment program that was under threat to be closed down by the state because of corruption. I went in there and I reconstituted the board of directors. I rehired the executive committee staff, redid the budget, brought in a CFO to redo the budget. I was brought in to run the 911 system because of problems up there, and we were able to resolve them. So I think leadership and experience is what counts, and I have been to Sacramento, and I've fought for money in Sacramento. As president of the POA, I was also a statewide leader in law enforcement, and been in Sacramento, worked for the Attorney General of Sacramento, carried legislation up there, and funded statewide witness relocation program that we reconstituted at the district attorney's office. So leadership and experience, it counts, and I've done it. And I will do it again as the sheriff under this budget crisis.
Okay. We are now at our last question. Please explain your priorities for enforcement and your views on restorative justice rehabilitation of prisoners. For instance, the charter school program where prisoners can get a high school diploma, or your views on enforcement, whether traffic or nonviolent crime or drugs use would be your number one priority. And that question starts with you, Mr. Miyamoto.
All right, the first part, that's a pretty big question. The first part regarding our restorative justice principles, and you mentioned the schools. Our Five Keys charter schools, the inception was back in the mid-2000s, and we've had a large amount of success with our school. We don't provide just a high school, a GED, we actually have a path towards a high school diploma, and that's been one of our successes. My plan and my vision is to expand on that because I see realignment as daunting as it is as an opportunity. With people in our system for a longer period of time, we can go beyond providing a high school diploma. We can move on to college education classes. We can move on to vocational training and employment skills training like computer skills. And we can develop those because we have people for longer periods of time now. And that gives us an advantage in that respect. In regards to enforcement, I wrote the FTO manual. I know that training is an important part of the process, and making sure our staff is fully trained to operate out there is something that would be one of my top priorities. I spent 5 years at training as the manager, responsible for the budget, responsible for making sure we maintain professional standards.
Mr. Cunning?
You know, we're entering a time in San Francisco where the criminal justice system is changing. And we know that we're going to have a new mayor, a new district attorney, we have a new chief of police, we're going to have a new sheriff. And it's a changing time in our city, and leadership is key. And I think that's why people in the state and the city that know the importance of this office, like Senator Dianne Feinstein, the Attorney General, the Officers for Justice, the Police Officers Association, San Francisco has endorsed me. They know the enormity of this office and the seriousness of the sheriff's office. And I think all the things that come to that part of that question, Velva, are all culminate in the sheriff's office. But I think leadership, again, I keep getting back to that, is what it takes as a sheriff to make enforcement, to make rehabilitation, to keep Five Keys growing, to keep our programs growing, to challenge our nonprofits to do better work, to challenge our deputies to work with the nonprofits, to get everybody at the table. That takes leadership, and I think that's why I have the support I have, and I'm looking forward to doing the job.
Okay, Mr. Miracamini, your answer to that?
So we should all be proud of the Five Keys Charter School, first of its kind in the United States. One of the most interesting facts is that there's actually some inmates who are not qualified to go into the Five Keys Charter School because they already have high school diplomas or they qualify for GED. I agree with the sentiment that we need to expand it, City College inside, City College outside, and that we have, I think, a more vigorous track of pre-release to post-release, especially helping women that are coming out. With the growth of women inmates that are occurring, they often fall off the record, off the horse of being able to stick to those programs. I would actually make it a condition to reducing the sentence of probation based on their ability to go ahead and continue those programs. In terms of enforcement, if I understand it right, by deputy sheriffs, those post dollars, peace officer standards and training, for training and upgrading the needs, I think, of our deputy sheriffs is something that has to be absolutely aggressively advocated for so that we are training the deputy sheriffs. We've seen what their training records look like compared to police department. It pales in comparison.
Well, we're going to move now to closing statements, but before we get to that, and you will have 2 minutes for your closing statements, let me remind you first that if you aren't registered to vote, please do so and do so right away. The actual deadline is October 24th, and if you've moved, you need to register again at your new address. We will do the closing statements in reverse alphabetical order, and remember that you have 2 minutes for these statements. Starting with you, Mr. Miyamoto.
I think everybody is fully aware that we are about to face a significant change in the Sheriff's Department and how we do business. I also believe that it is vital that the next person chosen to be sheriff is somebody who has the knowledge and experience of the department, who has the trust and respect of the people that do the job in order to take command of this challenge. The best person to continue Mike Hennessy's legacy of success is somebody who's been a part of that success. I am that person. I've been in the department now for 15 years. My entire civil service career has been with the Sheriff's Department. I have been promoted 4 times through the ranks by the sheriff, by the very person who provided us the visionary leadership, as someone to continue and to make sure that success is carried on. I am completely, absolutely dedicated to bringing this department forward as we face the new challenge. I have the overwhelming universal support of the individuals, the women and the men in our department who do the job every day. I have children here in San Francisco, and I am dedicated to make sure they grow up in a safe San Francisco. I think it's very important that we ensure the successful reintegration of individuals from custody back into our community. When people are going back into our neighborhoods, they should have education, tools, and my hope is jobs to make sure that that transition is successful. Reducing the chances of recidivism and reoffending means increasing public safety for all of us. I also believe with knowledge of the department, we can make things more efficient, and I think that's very important given the concerns of our budgetary constraints. That is what I provide in terms of my candidacy for sheriff. I also believe that it's important to realize some people have been saying that you need to be an expert in politics to be a good sheriff. If that's your belief, then I might not be your number 1 choice. I might be your number 2 choice. However, my belief is that to be a good sheriff, you need to be an expert in the sheriff's department. Thank you.
Mr. Miracarini, you have 2 minutes.
You're welcome to be my number 2. So I think the best person who can reflect on who would be the most apt person to carry on Sheriff Mike Hennessy's legacy is Sheriff Mike Hennessy. And while I certainly appreciate that my friends up here certainly are invoking, I think, all the positive reflections of Mike Hennessy has already said that he would like myself to help carry on. And make no mistake, there's no filling the shoes of Mike Hennessy. That's impossible. But what he is quoted as saying is that he wants somebody with the versatility that can take the sheriff's department in the next era of criminal justice in San Francisco. And that means uniting a legislator's skills, law enforcement skills, and the political acumen to make it happen. Why is that? The Sheriff's Department's budget is a drop in the ocean, $161 million in an ocean of $6.8 billion of what our city's budget is. It's not enough to know just the Sheriff's Department budget. You got to know the whole criminal justice system in San Francisco. You got to know that all the stakeholders municipally is a combined budget of $1.47 billion. And you got to know that the Sheriff's Department is really a tenth of that totality. And you got to know how to advocate vociferously, because it's the adult probation department and the sheriff's department are the 2 primary departments responsible for rehabilitation and reentry. Just ask yourself this statistic. For every 4 people that the San Francisco Police Department arrests and the San Francisco District Attorney prosecutes, over 3 are repeat offenders within 3 years. And yet their budget is $500 million every year. I know, we helped allocate it. And then look at the short shrift of the 2 primary departments. That's why we need a strong advocate to mirror and show that this is slightly counterintuitive, that I really believe in rehabilitation reentry, effective and accountable. And I believe in elevating the role of the Department of Sheriffs in a way that augments and partners with the police department in a way that makes us all feel safe. Whether you live in a poor neighborhood or you live in a rich neighborhood, public safety is a civil liberty and it is a right. And just like when I became supervisor of the Western Addition, I wouldn't let go until the crime came down, and I'll do that as sheriff citywide.
Mr. Connie, you get the, I was going to congratulate the audience just 2 minutes from now. Mr. Connie, you are next with your statement.
Thank you. Let me thank the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight, and for the audience, the people at home. I want to run for sheriff. I am running for sheriff because I care about public safety in the city. I care about this city. This is my city. You know, I grew up in this city right out of high school. At the end of Vietnam, I joined the military. I had a great career in the Air Force. I came home to San Francisco in the 70s, and I got a break. You know, I got a break. I'm a product of a nonprofit in this city, and I'm proud of that.